there's a question which is seemingly difficult. The Torah tells us that a child is not culpable and liable for the sins of a parent unless the child emulates the misbehavior of a parent. Only then, up to 4 generations, does the child receive the punishment for the transgressions of the parent. Avram Avinu had asked a question, which was considered a lack of faith on his level, on a very sensitive level. Or as we said, there's one opinion that says, because he had the opportunity to convert the stone community to monotheism, and for some reason he passed on that. Therefore he went to Egypt. His progeny were destined to bondage of Egypt for so many years. The hardships, the affliction, the torture. Why are the Jewish people culpable or responsible to pay Avram's spiritual debt? We have a principle: a father is not liable for the children's sins, and the child is not liable for the parent's sins. Why were the Jewish people responsible to pay such a heavy debt? Avram's debt. We find that after Yaakov returns from Choron, from exile with his family of 12 children, with his wives, he meets Yosef, his twin brother. And the Torah tells us when they come to Canaan, Yosef chooses to go to Mount Seir, which is the Edomite territory. It says the land could not carry both of them. So on a simple level, it means that they had such wealth, both of them, the flocks, the herds, there wasn't sufficient grazing land to support both of their entities. However, Rashi cites the Midrash that whoever would remain in Canaan, he would assume the debt of Avram, that person and his family would have to go into exile. Edom, Esav, was not willing to assume that debt. Therefore, he fled. And he abandoned Canaan to go to Mount Seir, that he should not have any relevance to the prize, because that prize, which is Canaan, has a very costly price tag. Therefore, he left. Yaakov, being the spiritual person, understood the value of Canaan, the value of being a spiritual people. Regardless of the cost, it's a pittance for something of infinite value. Therefore, Yaakov chose to settle in Canaan with his family, knowing that there's going to be some time in his life that he would have to uproot himself with his family and go to Egypt into exile, which ultimately did happen. The Midrash tells us, and the Talmud tells us, we read the story of Yosef being sold into slavery. Yaakov not being aware that he's still alive. He believed, as a result of what his children had done, they had taken his coat, his shredded coat, and dipped it into blood, into goat's blood, which resembles human blood. And they said he was devoured by a predator beast. Yaakov mourned and grieved for Yosef for 22 years, believing that his beloved son, his most special son who was the apple of his eye, had died. Only after 22 years did he realize that Yosef was alive. And he said to his family, I must go immediately to Egypt to see my son Yosef before I die. The Talmud says that if Yosef wouldn't have been in Egypt and Yaakov would have not gone willingly, he would have been taken to Egypt in shackles. Out of respect for Yaakov, God caused the scenario to develop that there was this strife between Yosef and his brothers. Of course, they had choice to behave as they did or not to behave as they did. And ultimately it led to the tragedy of Yosef being sold into slavery, which ultimately God actually orchestrated this scenario that it should evolve as it did. So that after 22 years, when Yaakov becomes aware that his beloved son is alive, he says, now I will go to Egypt. The going to Egypt was the beginning of the bondage. Yaakov and the 70 members of his family. But this was out of love and respect for Yaakov that God had orchestrated this. Yaakov being the most special of the patriarchs.